Tanuja Malde, and I am a retiree from PwC. I worked at PwC, also called PricewaterhouseCoopers, for 37 years, and last June, end of June, I retired. About 4 years ago, I went through uterine cancer, and how it started, how did I discover that I had uterine cancer, was just by chance. What had happened is my husband was in hospital, and I decided that instead, while sitting in, at the hospital, I thought actually I should go for a checkup and see my gynecologist. And when I went to see my gynecologist, he did the examination, and he said, "Tanuja, I don't like how your uterus feels, and I would like to do some further investigations." So that is where we started, and he sent me for some scans, and he did a pap smear to see if everything was fine. So when I went for the scan and I went back to the doctor, what he said to me is, "I don't like the thickness of your uterus. It doesn't feel right, and I would like to do further investigation," which he called a histoscopy. So he asked me to go for a histoscopy and he was going to be the doctor that would do it. So we got admitted into hospital for overnight stay, and he did what they took me to theater, and he did the histoscopy. And when he did the histoscopy, in the evening he said, "Come back after 1 week when we will have done the tests from the histoscopy to see if everything is fine, or we need to do further investigations." So when we went back a week later, in fact it was the day before I was going to actually fly out on holiday to India, we went into his clinic, and when we saw him, he said, "Tanuja, I have some sad news for you. You are suffering from uterine cancer." And there, doom, I thought, this is the end of the world for me. I have now got cancer, I have a limited life, and I'm going to die in the next few months or years. And he calmed me down and said, "Don't worry, let's agree on what the next steps are." So he said, "Look, you have to cancel your trip. Instead, we need to go into surgery." And so a week later, there I was on the hospital bed, undergoing a very, very long surgery, and they were going to remove my uterus, my fallopian tubes, my ovaries, my lymph nodes. That is a feeling that is not very nice. You feel that all your body parts that relate to the reproduction cycle are going to go, and you really don't know how it is going to feel after everything's been removed. So he was explaining to us that, look, you don't really need all these. Once you are done with reproduction, by the way, having said that, at present I don't have children, so it is a feeling that is the end of that side of life. But I was also of age, so I guess it didn't matter too much. Eventually, after he has calmed you down and made you understand, you feel okay, it is something that will help you, and if it's going to help you, let us go down that journey. So whilst in hospital, on the morning of the surgery, they had to prepare me well. We had to do all the pressure checks, the diabetic checks, before they could actually put me onto the theatre. They obviously had to calm me down because I was a very worried person, and my family was the support behind it. We went into theatre. I came out maybe after 6 hours in theatre, and there my family was all waiting to see me in the room and see a smile on my face. Obviously, you are in a little bit of pain. The first thing you notice is you have a big bandage on your body. You are not allowed to eat for at least 12 to 18 hours. You could only have a little bit of water. And what I realized is I could not even sit up in bed. Somebody had to help me, and there was, Sandeep and my sister Priti and Snasha all helping me sit up, because all your muscles in your core have been cut open, so it becomes very, very difficult to sit. The next day they actually said I should get out of bed and walk a little. Gosh, you don't realize how difficult it is to walk the first time, after surgery. It feels painful, but you actually, do it. And then the physiotherapists were coming to help and make sure all your muscles are starting to get activated again. And slowly, you start eating a little bit, little liquid, and then, a little bit of more food, until you feel that, yeah, it is fine now. I can have, the 3 meals in small quantities. You couldn't eat much. The day I was released from hospital, Sandeep was bringing me home in the car, and I think I kept saying to him, Sandeep, you are driving too fast, you are driving too fast. And he was only going at 20 or 30 kilometers per hour, but every bump was a pain, because the whole of my core felt like it is hurting. Every bump felt that it was rough, yeah. And you sort of think, with these potholes in Nairobi, the car is going into a pothole or up, and yet he's driving very slowly. But I was in pain, and it was the longest and most difficult journey to the house. And it's only like 3 kilometers or 4. We got to the house, and I did not want to leave the house at all. I just wanted to be in bed. You feel a little bit sad because you've lost a lot of parts of your body, but you are also feeling that I have cancer. What is going to happen next? That is always behind your mind, that I'm going to die. And you think, how is this going to how am I ever going to get better? And you hear people that have died from cancer. You really don't want to hear that. But my family was saying to me, bringing to me positive stories of people who have made it, people who've gone through the same journey and are fine. And those are the things they would keep talking to me about, and try and do other things with me. A lot of prayers, a lot of, reading something different, talking about, things that I like. So, there would be conversations on wildlife, there would be conversations of friends and people. They would invite people to the house to come and see us, so that I felt a bit happier and away from the disease. So we had lots and lots of people coming to visit. Every day we had someone or the other coming to support us. The big support also came from my employer, PwC, at the time. And you find that they are there for you. My leader, Peter Gau, said to me, don't worry, Tanuja, you can take as much time off as you want, you get better, work will always be there. Don't think about the office. The groups of people from the office, my staff or my team would come in numbers. Sometimes there would be 10, sometimes there would be 15 people. They come over, they cheer me up. And the little things that people did for me was what made me feel that actually there is hope. What were those little things? Somebody coming with a little book saying, read these quotations, they will help you. Somebody coming with just a few flowers and saying, look at how beautiful these flowers are. Somebody coming with a little fruit and saying, enjoy this. That is what made me feel, yes, you know, I have family, I have friends, I have the world. Why am I, you know, saying that I'm going to die? You're not going to die. You are there for all these people. So after about 2 weeks, I had to go back to the doctor so that he could remove the stitches and sort of talk about the next steps with us. And he was the most supportive doctor that I have seen. He talked to me whilst removing the stitches, and he says, you know, we need to sit down and agree, you know, what the next plan will be, because we now have the results back from the hospital. You know, they obviously sent all the bits that they had taken out from me to the laboratory for testing. And you know, once the results come back, that's when they will know what stage of cancer you had, and you know, what are the next steps that need to be done. And usually there is a protocol that they have to follow. So he was going to discuss that protocol with me. And so the next thing that he said is, I need to see the radiotherapists. I will need to see some specialists, because it looks like that, you know, the cancer was not only contained in the uterus, it had spread slightly into what they call the myometrium, and thus I will need some radiotherapy. It wasn't still at a very advanced stage, and I guess that was because I discovered it by chance and, you know, a bit earlier. If my husband hadn't gone to hospital, I probably wouldn't have discovered that I have cancer, and I would have probably waited for another few more months before going to see the doctor, and it would have probably got worse. It's, I guess, you know, the biggest issue with gynecological cancers are you are shy to go to the doctor. You don't want somebody to examine you. It's uncomfortable, and therefore you try to avoid seeing a doctor. And you are not the specialist, so unless you see a doctor, he is the one who is going to know there is something wrong. So my recommendation, visit a doctor when you have something that is unusual. In my case, I was thinking, this is menopause, discharge is normal, irregular discharge is normal. So, you know, you sort of tend to avoid seeing the doctor. But because Sandeep was in hospital, it helped me to visit my doctor, and there we were, identifying the cancer at a not completely beginning, but at an intermediary stage, which needed further treatment. So, you know, we visited some radiologists, some oncologists to talk about, you know, the next steps. Generally, most of them said you will need to do 25 sessions of radiotherapy and 3 sessions of brachytherapy. We went to 3 different places to talk about it. But a lot of the doctors said to me, if you can afford it, go overseas for your next round of treatment. They have better machinery, better expertise. And you know what? I had a medical scheme from my employer, PricewaterhouseCoopers, which allowed me to seek treatment elsewhere. So in the end, we decided to go to the UK for my next round of treatment, which was radiotherapy and brachytherapy. So luckily, my sister, after staying with me for 2 weeks, was traveling back to the UK. So she got in touch with the Royal Marsden Hospital, identified an oncologist that could deal with my situation, got the appropriate appointments, and we then started making arrangements for travel. Sandeep, my husband, said he would come with me, and we started planning for the journey. It was quite interesting because my appointment was going to be in early March. I felt that I should travel as late as possible at the end of February, and my sister said to me, "No, come quickly. COVID is becoming very prominent in the UK. Things are shutting down. Flights may shut down. Take the first flight that you can possibly get." And lucky for us, we traveled in time, because once we had traveled, 5-6 days later, planes started shutting down flights all over the world. When we got to the UK, things started shutting down and people started working from home. We could not see many people. We had to be just the 3 people in the house. Sandeep, my big support, my sister, who was my second support, and myself. The only thing I could do was go to the hospital all by myself. My sister would take me, but she would stay in the car, and I was the only one allowed in the hospital for the treatment, purely because of COVID. COVID was massive. I used to worry about, what if I get COVID, it could kill me. So it was, and we didn't know much that was happening about COVID, but every time you watch TV, you just hear so many people died, so many people in hospital, so many people, having breathing issues. And you think, what if it gets to me when I'm already vulnerable with cancer? This is going to be a killer. But lucky for me, it was fine. So the hospital made my visits very, very short. They would make me do all the planning from home. So it required that I drank 2 liters of water before I arrived in hospital. So during the morning, I always had water by my side, and I would have the appointment at about 4 o'clock. So I would get to the hospital. They would put me onto the machine, adjust me for the radiotherapy, and within 10 minutes I was out of hospital. So minimum time spent at the hospital, and all the prep was done from home. The only time that I had to spend a little bit more time was when they did the preparation scan. It's quite, you have to clear out your whole system so that they can take a proper scan and they can make the markers on your body on where they are going to do the radiotherapy. Usually they are targeting specific areas, especially the lymphatic nodes. So they need to mark those, and that scan took a bit of time. I had to do it, in fact, almost twice, because my system wasn't completely cleared out, and therefore they needed to make sure that they do it again so that they mark properly. but after that, for the next 25 days, I would, not 25 days, because you did 5 days, 2 days off, 5 days, 2 days off. So, you know, the treatment lasted, say, about 6 weeks, where you went to hospital every day. I was very scared about the brachytherapy. The brachytherapy is internal radiation, and you know, you sort of don't know what it is going to be. They do give you write-ups, but the way it had been described to me here in Nairobi, I was saying, I hope this one goes well, because what they had told me is that they will put a rod into my vagina, and they were going to, you know, put you onto a scan machine to make sure that everything is fine, and then, you know, they give you the radiation. And I was thinking, oh my God, you know, what is this going to be? And actually, when they did it, it was a simple, easy process. For that particular treatment, we had to go into the city to do it, and you know, I came out half an hour later, and I said to my sister, I'm done. And really, we could not believe how straightforward and simple it turned out to be. So, you know, once the treatment was done, during the day, I would try and do a little bit of chair exercises because I couldn't walk a lot. My muscles had become very stiff. In fact, Sandeep and my sister would give me massages. I was having difficulty getting out of bed. They would help me. They would cheer me up. They were giving me nutritious food to make sure that I was keeping well, whatever I could eat. Sometimes you didn't feel like eating a lot, but you know, they would make sure that I would eat healthy food 3 or 4 times a day, and they would try and keep me company. We would play a little bit of cards, we would watch a little bit of TV, I would do some exercises using videos on television, and Sandeep would do them with me daily. So the idea was to stretch out my body as much as possible and not make it stiff. Whatever I could do, very simple movements. Sometimes it was just moving your hands, you know, up and down, and you know, now that I can do it, it was a pain at the time to do those things. You know, you can't even move your legs, you know, wide apart, you know, to do some exercises. You can barely walk, you know. Yes, you can walk, but it's with great difficulty. You are having some of the side effects from the radiotherapy. So, you know, it is a pain trying to manage those, at the same time, you know, try and live as normal a life as possible. Sandeep would also help me do some art during the day. He was an artist, and that is where my art journey really started. Somebody had given me a mandala book to go with and said, you know, use this to paint a little bit. It will make your mind at peace. And I was doing, you know, a little bit of painting every day, and that is what made me feel, yes, I like this. So I would paint the mandalas, and then I started making little cards from waste material that we had, and you know, I said, okay, let me do something that is crafty. I always loved craft, but I didn't really do much art. So I combined the craft with my art, and Sandeep would sit there at the table with me, guiding me. So, you know, we would do it together. He would do his own art at the same time. He's very much into doing pencil art or colorful art, and we did it together, really. Friends could not come to the house in the UK because there was complete lockdown. My family could not come and see me, but they would still bring me some food or something, and they would leave it at the door. We would talk from a distance. So they would be on the driveway, we would be in the house, and we would talk to them for a few minutes. But the support that they gave was they brought things so that, maybe it came from a different household, you feel like eating a little bit. So yes, and we used to call it delivero. So, my friend Meena and her husband Sunil would always bring me delivero 3-4 times a week. And that was good support. So, days passed until the treatment was finished. The last day of my treatment, we celebrated with an ice cream. I don't normally eat ice cream, but my sister said, today you can eat an ice cream, diabetes or not. So we enjoyed an ice cream together, and it felt like this is over. And until then, we used to count down, 25, 24, 23, and you just sort of say one less every day. And that's how we kept going. Once the treatment was over, you felt, actually, this wasn't as bad as I thought. Yeah? I was expecting much worse. Yes, side effects are there, but they're manageable. If you drink plenty of fluids, the less side effects you get. So water was important. 3 to 4 liters was the daily consumption I had to have. So I was always hydrated. When you had massive symptoms, the hospital would give you a little medicine to take. But I didn't have to take it very often because I tried to eat healthy. I tried to make sure that I was doing the right things. Whatever advice they gave me, I was following it. So once our treatment was done, we were very looking forward to coming home. Yeah, there was no flights that were coming back to Kenya, but we heard Kenya Airways was going to do special flights to fly back people that were stuck overseas. So Sandeep did all the finding out, and once he realized that there was a flight that was going to take off, he inquired, and we started the process, which was a very, very lengthy process actually, because you have to go through mechanisms of getting tested for COVID. There were only special centers that did those tests in the UK. It was quite an expensive affair at the time to get a COVID test, get a clearance certificate so that you could travel. And those had to be done just like 72 hours before travel. So, we had to get that sorted. We had to buy new tickets because the ticket that we had gone with could not be used, as this was a charter flight with Kenya Airways. And travel was quite strange. When we got to the airport is completely empty. You are confined to specific areas. On the plane, you are not allowed to move. You can only be in your seat, and then the only other place you could go to was the washroom. Even when you sit down, you are using hand washes, not hand washes, the gel to clean your hands, to clean your seat, and it was quite worrying because you think you could easily catch COVID. Coming to Nairobi, lots of checks at the airport. You had to get letters. In those days, everybody was going into quarantine at hotels for 2 weeks, but because we had explained to them that I had undergone cancer treatment, I was very vulnerable, could we do quarantine at home? We needed special permission from the ministry, and we were granted that permission. So we quarantined at home for 2 weeks. They would ring us every few days to ask how are we, and we had to send them COVID tests, and the laboratory would come to the house to do those tests, and it was fine that we were clear of COVID. But very scary at the time. We had not been vaccinated, and you really worry that if you caught COVID, that could be the cause of your death, and yet you've just gone through a cancer journey. So all well, fast forward, got better, went through the quarantine, and then nobody was going to work in those days. Everything was working from home. So my employer reached out and said, you can work from home as many hours as you can do, and ease back into work. And that really helped me as well. So I was doing a few hours to start with, and I would rest when I needed to rest, and we went on like that for several weeks until I could go back to working full time. And it was the support at home that was that was good. So eating healthy food, eating good food, eating regular meals, by then I could walk. So Sandeep and I would go and walk every day on the street outside, and we started for 15 minutes, and within a month we were actually walking an hour every day, which helped build up my muscles. It helped me get fresh air, and I felt that things were looking good. In terms of seeing the doctor, I was supposed to see the doctor every 3 months for the first year, which I was doing regularly, and the only thing they were doing is making sure that nothing was going wrong. So they would do internal examination, and then a scan every 6 months, and things were fine. I had to make sure that my sugars were always controlled, so diabetes was very critical, and making sure that I managed that well, because cancer cells tend to feed on sugar. So if they are going to come back and your sugars are high, it is not a good sign. Okay. So we worked from home for about 2 years. This was around 21, 22, mid-20s to 22, we continued to work from home. And after that, we started going back to the office 1 day a week, 2 days a week, then 3 days a week. So, but the support mechanism of friends talking to you on phone, because they may not be able to visit you, was there. We had quarantine in Nairobi, so 7 o'clock we had to be in the house, and what would I do? I would do art. 7 to about 9:30 every day I did what I call dot art. I went for some online classes with a lady and a small group of friends, and that changed my life. It gave me so much peace every time I did my art, and I felt, wow, this is colorful, this is bright, I can use this, I can do this, and every day it got better and better and better, and up to date I continue doing some art on a regular basis. It is what gives me the peace. It is what makes me feel that I can create something beautiful. I can give something beautiful to somebody. Art has become a big part of my life. I have started exploring different forms of art. So we've done watercolor workshops when my sister or sister-in-law are here, and made beautiful pictures. We did sunflowers, we did bouquets of flowers, and just the different techniques that you learn, the different types of medium that you can use, and how color just flows depending on what type of art you are doing. And when you've done a picture which you think you don't even know what to do, and the finished product that comes out makes you feel that wow, I was able to do this. So that gives you so much hope in life, that there is a life that can be bright, beautiful, and something that you can do and feel I have created this. So I've used all these creations, some of the ones that I've done over the period of my wellness journey, to gift it to friends, family, work colleagues, so that they can also appreciate how I have been spending my time during the recovery period. So I knew that I was coming towards my retirement. At PwC, we retire at 60 years of age. So it is a hobby that has been created that is helping me with my post-retirement journey in a very big way, amongst other things which I will talk about in a while. So one of the big things that Sandeep did for me just before my retirement was a nice party. So we celebrated my 60th birthday in style. He organized an African theme. A lot of my guests came dressed in African wear, and it was just a beautiful day celebration that is to be remembered. And all the people that came to the party, a lot of my work colleagues, a lot of my friends from over the years, and a few family members, we really had a great time together. And again, art was part of that journey. So everybody came and painted a piece of art for me at that party, which I have in my house, and I look at it daily and think that is something that everybody has painted for me. So everybody can paint. If you put your mind to it, you will be able to do it. And I can assure you that it gives you a lot of peace, and it makes you forget that there is, you are suffering. So I recommend art. I have also been working with Faraja Cancer Support Group and helping with several things there, talking to people who have cancer, especially uterine cancer, and talking about my journey with them so that they can understand what will happen next, what to expect, giving them hope and saying, there is life, it is not the end of the world. So yeah, I have many different things, and always willing to help towards anything to do with cancer, anything to do with art, anything to do with children that need some support.